Chapter 316. After Guan Xiaoqi finished speaking, he leaned over and carefully looked at the clothes. Fangya said disdainfully, "It's just a shabby dress. What's so special about it?" Guan Xiaoqi ignored Fangya and stared at it for quite a while. Then he looked at the extremely low-key and simple sign Ji on the collar and then looked up at Ning Shi solemnly, saying, "If I'm not mistaken, this dress was designed by Gabriel Elvis, who is known as a genius designer. When Joshua Arson wore it at the Oscars award party, the dress he designed became an instant hit. Later, everyone in the entertainment circle was proud to own a dress designed by Elvis. This dress should be donated by Elvis at a charity auction 5 years ago. It's his proudest work, and it was sold at a sky-high price at that time." "Ning Shi, I'm right." "What?" Guan Xiaoqi suddenly blurted out such a long story, but Ning Shi didn't understand a word. Fangya was stunned at first, and then she burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha ha, that's hilarious. How could a dress that was sold at a sky-high price appear here? Guan Xiaoqi, you can't tell such a lie just because you're in the same company as Ning Shi." "Ha ha, Guan Xiaoqi is really bold. Who's that Elvis she's talking about? I've never heard of him. She must be making it up." The others didn't believe her. Someone asked Guan Xiaoqi how to spell the designer's name, and then searched the internet. In the end, he didn't expect to find this piece of clothing. It's true. This designer is very awesome, but he disappeared suddenly in the middle. So few of us know about him. And look at this picture in the introduction. The dress in the picture is exactly the same as Ning Shi's dress. Fangya glanced at it out of the corner of her eye, and then she said carelessly, "It must be an imitation." "That's right. This dress has been in a private collection. How could it be here? It's impossible. It's the same one. I can't be wrong." Guan Xiaoqi sounded very sure and confident, and he looked at Ning Shi for confirmation. However, Ning Shi was also completely confused and couldn't answer her. Wasn't this just a worthless mold? Fangya laughed hysterically. "This is so funny. If this is real, I will crawl out of here today." "You said it yourself." Guan Xiaoqi snorted, then turned to the crowd and said, "Actually, it's very easy to prove its authenticity. The biggest feature of Elvis's design is the embellishment of jewels, and every jewel on this dress is real. If you don't believe me, you can come and identify it for yourself." "Oh, right. Don't pretend to know." "Guan Xiaoqi, who are you accusing of pretending to know something?" Fangya's face turned red with anger. Let's talk about whoever answered. As long as they were knowledgeable, they would definitely be interested in this piece of clothing. Therefore, after hearing Guan Xiaoqi's words, someone finally stood up. "Why don't I take a look?" A quiet girl walked over from behind. Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw her. "Yes, yes. Feifei, look. You know best." Feifei is a special-grade jewelry appraiser. I was almost tricked last time, and she was the one who identified it for me. Since Feifei is here, it's definitely not a problem. Fangya didn't have any objections. She looked at Guan Xiaoqi and Ning Shi gloatingly. "Now someone knows. Let's see how you can pretend." Chapter 317. The girl named Feifei looked at the jewels solemnly. As there were 2 mini-star fragments embedded in the clothes, Feifei took a long time to identify them. As time passed, everyone held their breath and stared, including Ning Shi, who was still confused. She wanted to tell the truth, but it was too late. Feifei had already focused on identifying the jewels. If she spoke now, it would make people feel that she was at death's door and had no choice but to shut her mouth. After a long while, Feifei finally took a deep breath and raised her head. "I'm sorry, everyone. There are too many broken gems embedded in the clothes. I can't guarantee that I can identify every single one of them. I can only try my best to look at them all. What I've seen so far is all real." As soon as she said that, Ning Shui was the first to change her expression. Everyone was also dumbfounded. "No, it can't be. How is that possible?" But everyone knows Feifei's skills. Her words can't be wrong. This, Fangya, who was waiting for Ning Shi to make a fool of herself, turned red. "Feifei, you must be mistaken. How could it be real? It's obviously glass." The others naturally did not believe it either. "Feifei, take a closer look. These gems look really cheap. Yeah, take a closer look. Although we definitely believe in your professionalism, it's really impossible. In the face of everyone's doubts, Fei blinked and said with certainty, if it was only one, I could still make a mistake. There are so many of them. I can't be wrong about every single one, right? These gems are all real. Since Fei had already said that, they had to believe it no matter how much they did not want to believe it. For a moment, everyone was speechless, especially the people who had just followed Fangya and said that the gems were fake goods. At this moment, they even hid in the corner and did not say a word. As for Ningxi, as the owner of the clothes, she was the most shocked one. Every one of them are all real? Didn't they say that it was a gift from a friend and not worth much? Lu Tingxiao actually lied to her, and she actually believed it. At this time, Guan Xiaoqi looked at Fangya and sneered, haha, I remember someone just said that if this dress is real, I'll crawl out of here today. Fangya's face stiffened. She gritted her teeth and said, so what if it's true? This gown must have been rented by the company for Ningxi. It's not her own. What's so great about it? Hearing Fangya's words, one of the people who had been silent immediately echoed in a low voice. It's a fact that Ningxi's clothes are of low quality. That's right. We helped her out of kindness because we couldn't stand it anymore. Fangya stuffed the clothes in her hand into Ningxi's arms and said earnestly, so, Ningxi, you'd better take these clothes. No matter how expensive that gown is, you can only look at it. You might not even be able to wear it on the occasion. Generally, this kind of gown could only be worn to receive awards and attend important events. Fangya was obviously cursing her to never have a chance to be famous. Ning Shuelua seemed to be afraid that she would be too embarrassed to take it, so she said considerately, Ningxi, just take it. After all, the misunderstanding last time was caused by my assistant. These are my gifts to you as an apology. Chapter 318. Ningxi, since Shueluo has said so, don't let her down. Don't tell me you think that Shueluo doesn't like the cheap stuff she gave you. You can just casually check, and you will know that these clothes are really quite expensive. They are much better than your old clothes. Where else can you find such a good thing? Quickly accept it. Ningxi had a serious lack of sleep. In addition, she had been chattering all night. She was almost at her limit. She could barely keep her eyes open. She just wanted to end this farce as soon as possible. Just as he was about to say anything to get them to leave, a girl leaning against the dressing table in the corner suddenly exclaimed, ah, Ningxi's nerves tightened. What now? Ningxi, how can this thing move? You scared me to death. The girl looked at the decorative candlestick behind her back, which suddenly turned under the pressure. In the next second, everyone heard a strange crack, crack, crack sound. Just as everyone was wondering where the sound came from, one of the walls of the cloakroom slowly opened up to both sides, and bright white light flowed through the gap little by little. The scene was like a slow-motion movie. A moment later, the two walls finally opened completely. After seeing the whole picture inside, the air was filled with the sound of people sucking in cold air, and then there was a long silence. No one present said anything. Everyone stared blankly at the wall. He stared blankly at the magnificent cloakroom behind the wall. The top of the cloakroom was decorated with glittering crystal lamps, and it was filled with gorgeous gowns. It was so dazzling that people could hardly open their eyes. Fangya didn't hold the pile of clothes for Ningxi firmly, and they all fell to the ground. Because she was too shocked, she opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. Everyone's reaction was about the same. It was only after a long time that everyone came back to their senses. Am I dreaming? Ningxi, you actually have a secret compartment in your house. Fuck. My eyes were almost blinded by the light. This cloakroom is too big and luxurious. Ningxi, you're so mean. Why don't you open your cloakroom and let us have a look? Ningxi. She should know there was such a thing first, right? Now, she finally knew where the pile of clothes had gone to. If it weren't for today's accident, she probably wouldn't have known there was such a big secret compartment in her house. Ningxi touched her forehead and didn't know what to say to Lu Tingxiao. How on earth did that guy lie to her in such an academic, authoritative, and trustworthy tone? The crowd observed the style of the dresses and was surprised to find that all the dresses seemed to be made by the same designer as the one in the wardrobe, which was Gabrielle Elvis. Many people couldn't help but sneak a peek at the labels on the clothes. Sure enough, after taking a look at a few of them, all of them had the initials GE. This was no longer a matter of money. GE's designers had suddenly disappeared not long after their debut. The works they left behind were very limited. Even if you had the money, you might not be able to get them. Now, this room was full of shock. Chapter 319. After the initial shock, someone was obviously unwilling to give up and secretly went to ask Feifei, "Feifei, are the things in there all authentic?" Feifei was also surprised for a long time. Hearing this, she nodded and said, "I took a look. They are all real." Anyone who knows a little about jewelry knows that the unique light of real jewelry is different from that of fake ones. Oh my god, that's scary. Did Golden Era prepare this for Ningxi? Golden Era is too rich. It's already amazing enough that the dormitory has the best location in the Pearl River Royal View, but this cloakroom is bigger than someone else's house. They're really trying to make Ningxi happy. Everyone present had a tacit understanding as to who this others was referring to. Some of them could not stand Ningxuelua. They had been suppressing their anger for a long time, and they began to whisper among themselves. The point is, Ningxi's extravagance is classy and classy. All of them are from legendary brands like GE. Unlike Ning Shualua's cloakroom, it's like the vault of a nouveau riche, stuffing whatever brand is into it. She just wanted to give her clothes to Ningxi with a look of charity. How could Ningxi want it? I think she wanted to humiliate Ningxi at first, but TSK, there's no harm without comparison. Ning Shuelua didn't expect that she would see the huge cloakroom the next second when she heard what Ningxi had said to take the clothes. At this moment, she stood stiffly in front of Ningxi's cloakroom, listening to those low whispers. Her livid face was burning hot, as if she had been slapped heavily in the face. Damn it. It's all that Feng Ye's fault. Why did she have to bring it up to Ningxi? If she had not come here at the last minute, her plan would have been perfect. Now, everything had been messed up. She had just managed to salvage a little of her image, but it was ruined again. Feng Ye did not expect her flattery to backfire. She looked at Ningxi angrily and scolded. Why didn't you say so earlier if you don't need clothes? You think it's fun to watch us run around in circles? What a dog that bites Lu Dongbin, not appreciating my kindness. Ningxi crossed her arms and leaned against the door frame. She raised her eyebrows. Are you sure I didn't tell you earlier? It's just that someone doesn't seem to understand human language. You. Feng Ye choked and couldn't say a word. She could only murmur bitterly, no matter how much, it doesn't belong to you. Ning Shuelua took a few deep breaths to calm herself down and said with a generous expression, Forget it, yeah. We're just helping Ningxi, not asking for anything in return. It's best if she has enough clothes. Ningxi, if you need anything in the future, just let me know. In other words, the company might support her now, but it might not always support her in the future. Xiao Qi was the only one who was calm about the sudden appearance of the cloakroom. He was only surprised for a moment, but he soon recovered and looked at Ning Shuelua, Feng Ye, and the others as if they were clowns. Sigh, I didn't come here for nothing. He had watched a good show. I'm so tired, I'm going home to sleep. After saying that, he skipped away. As soon as Guan Xiaoqi left, everyone began to leave, especially those who had mocked and belittled Ningxi in order to please Ning Shuelua. Finally, everyone left. Ningxi looked thoughtfully at Guan Xiaoqi's back as he left. She was too sleepy to think too much. In the end, she almost climbed onto the bed and fell asleep as soon as her head touched the pillow. Chapter 320. Late at night, Ning Shuelua's apartment. Changli rushed over in the middle of the night and saw a mess of clothes on the floor. My dear lady, who pissed you off this time? Ning Shuelua twisted a pile of clothes with a pair of scissors and scolded. Who else? Changli had already learned the details from her assistant. She packed up helplessly and said, Shuelua, you were really too impulsive this time. You've been holding back for so long. Why did you provoke her for no reason? Haven't I held back long enough? In this situation tonight, I thought it would be foolproof. Who knew? Changli softened her tone. I understand how you feel, but there's no point in being angry now. You don't need to do anything to Ningxi. Someone will deal with her. Ning Shuelua immediately looked at her. Who are you talking about? Changli sneered and reminded her. Don't forget that Su Yimo is in Shangshi Entertainment. Do you think Su Yimo will let her off the hook now that Ningxi is in the limelight? Even a big shot like Long Manyun was completely suppressed by her back then. What does Ningxi count as? Ning Shuelua's eyes lit up. Su Yimo, why didn't I think of that? That's right. Su Yimo has an ambiguous relationship with the senior management of Lu Enterprises. Her background is incomparable. Think about it. With her arrogant personality, how could she tolerate someone like Ningxi who can shake her position? What happened tonight will definitely reach her ears soon. What do you think she will think when that time comes? Ning Shuelua pondered for a while before a smile appeared on her face. You're right. Changli breathed a sigh of relief when she finally persuaded Ning Shuelua. She continued to analyze. Now we can totally build a relationship with Su Yimo. Although you've always been enemies with her, it's different now. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. Don't worry, I'll ask her later. There won't be any big problems. Ning Shuelua threw away the scissors and clothes in her hand, got up and paced back and forth. Then she stood still and said, I heard that she likes jade. Someone gave my father a pair of top-grade jade ornaments. Give it to her. Let me know if you need anything. I'll think of a way. All right, no problem. Changli immediately agreed and then asked, by the way, have you considered the proposal I told you last time? Are you talking about the engagement? That's right. You've kept a low profile for too long. You definitely need a very talkative event to restore your popularity and image. Everyone has always been envious of you because of Su Yin. This is the best time to get engaged. By then, all the headlines will be about you. I've already come up with a series of follow-up plans. Not only can we help you raise your popularity to a new height, but we can also ruthlessly trample on Ningxi, Changli said with some excitement. At the mention of Su Yin, Ning Shuelua frowned slightly. You know, because of what happened last time, Su Yin is very unhappy with me. I need some time, and he's been too busy recently. It's okay. There's no rush. Work is more important. Your Su Yin is really amazing. If this big deal goes through, the Su family will enter the European market and the group's profits will double. Recently, he's been all over the financial channels and magazines. Ning Shueluo's face was glowing as she proudly raised her eyebrows. Of course, don't you know whose man he is? Don't worry, I'll take care of the engagement. Changli, that's good. Then let's split up. Chapter 321. The next morning. Because she didn't have to work, Ningxi woke up naturally. Recalling what happened last night, she almost thought she had a dream. Until she walked to the walk-in closet in slippers. She didn't close the secret compartment last night. Now it was opened and caught her by surprise. Ningxi, it wasn't a dream. She had accepted it because she thought it was worthless. What should she do now? In the walk-in closet, Ningxi was having a headache when her cell phone rang. It was Lin Jiji. Hello, Sister Jiji? You're off today. Are you free now? Come to the company if you're free. It's okay. I'll be right there. Ningxi immediately packed up and rushed to the company. At the same time, in Lin Jiji's office at Shangshi Entertainment. Fuck. Why do I lose everything recently? Lying on the sofa opposite the desk, Jiang Mai angrily threw away the game console in his hand. Where is Ningxi? When will she come? Lin Jiji buried herself in a pile of documents and answered without looking up. She's on her way. Jiang Mai sat up, squinted his eyes, and looked thoughtfully at the woman who had been calm from beginning to end in front of the desk. He didn't know why, but a very unpleasant feeling welled up in his heart. Lin Jiji, there's no one else here. Why do you pretend not to know me? Lin Jiji glanced at him out of the corner of her eye and ignored him. Seeing her attitude, Jiang Mai was even angrier. He sneered. Tut, tut. What did you say to Ningxi last time? It's just a simple relationship between an artist and a former agent? You're so good at acting. Why don't you just become an actor? Lin Jiji finally raised her head and looked at him. She replied unhurriedly, Isn't it? Jiang Mai was about to speak when Lin Jiji asked, Or do you want me to tell Ningxi another truth? Jiang Mai's face turned red, and he stood up immediately. You. Outside the door, there was a knock on the door. Jiang Mai could only shut up immediately. He got up to open the door and complained to the person outside. You're so slow. I've already died a dozen times. Ningxi had a look of disdain on her face. Are you sure that the fact that you died more than a dozen times is directly related to how fast I came? Cut the crap and get down to business. Once we're done, I still have to go back and sign for my newest equipment. You only know how to play. I think you should just marry your game console in the future. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. After entering, she greeted Lin Jiji sweetly. Sister Jiji, I'm here. Jiang Mai was speechless at the speed with which he changed his attitude. Seeing Ningxi, Lin Jiji's expression softened. Have a seat. I called you here today to tell you a piece of good news. Good news? What good news? Ningxi immediately pricked up her ears. I just helped you get an endorsement. Ningxi's face lit up with excitement. Really? Can I also accept endorsements? I haven't even been in a movie yet. Lin Jiji explained, You're popular enough, but most companies are still waiting to see what you can do. It's a coincidence this time. Not long after the news about you and Jiang Mai playing games through the night was released, the game company started to contact me and approached me. I just came to an agreement yesterday. Chapter 322. Ningxi didn't expect to get her first endorsement in this way. She was surprised. What the? You can do that? Jiang Mai snorted proudly. Why not? Thank me. It's all thanks to me. Yes, it's all thanks to you this time. Lin Jiji went on with the details. The game company wants to sign you and Jiang Mai at the same time. You are a newcomer, so the endorsement fee is not high. 1 million yuan. You will get about 300,000 yuan in the end. 300,000 yuan? So much? She hadn't paid attention to her share in the contract because newcomers usually got 20% and 80%. Now it seemed that she could still get 300,000 yuan after deducting the share and tax, so her share was at least 40% and 60%, which was a very good deal. Sure enough, the devil would never cheat her. Jiang Mai snorted and looked at her contemptuously. Useless. You are so happy for 300,000 yuan. How much do you get? Ningxi asked curiously. Not much, 3 million yuan. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have accepted such a small endorsement. Ningxi clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Damn it. If you don't stop, I'll beat you up. Lin Jiji handed the contract to the two of them. This is the only thing I want to talk to you about. This is the contract. Take a look and sign it if there's no problem. Jiang Mai didn't even look at it before he signed his name. Ningxi glanced at it quickly and signed her name too. Lin Jiji looked at the contract and nodded. Okay, you can go now. I'll handle the rest. Since both of you accepted the same endorsement this time, I discussed it with Brother Ming and decided that I'll be in charge of this endorsement. When the time comes, I'll arrange the follow-up matters for you. Okay, got it, Sister Jiji. Got it. After leaving the office, Jiang Mai wanted to say something but hesitated. Finally, he asked, Did something happen when you suddenly asked for leave that day? Well, something happened, but it's nothing. Anyway, I'm fine now. It's about Lu Tingxiao again. Jiang Mai curled his lips. Even my mother heard about it. Ningxi was stunned. Your mother? What did she hear? She said that my grandmother, Lu Tingxiao's mother, went to talk to her about setting up a blind date for Lu Tingxiao. She seems to be very picky lately. My mother has pushed everything away and is accompanying the old lady to pick a wife all day long. Ningxi. Oh. Jiang Mai stared at her. Oh, that's it? Ningxi glanced at him. What else can I do? Are you a dog in the manger? Jiang Mai was speechless. As the two of them were talking, someone on the other side suddenly called out enthusiastically, Little Yi. Ningxi and Jiang Mai looked up at the same time and saw two women walking toward them. One of them was Zhao Meixin, a woman named Jiang Mai, who was gorgeously dressed. She was wearing the latest lavender dress in Chanel's autumn/winter collection, looking noble and elegant. There was a trace of arrogance between her eyebrows. Su Yimo. Ningxi naturally recognized this face that everyone in the country knew at a glance. Speaking of which, it was her first time meeting Golden Era ever since she signed with Golden Era. Xiaoyi, I haven't seen you in a long time. Are you here to discuss something? Su Yimo asked with concern, like an elder. Chapter 323. The corner of Jiang Mai's mouth twitched slightly as he replied casually, Meichim, the entertainment industry was a place where seniority mattered a lot. After all, Su Yimo was a senior. Since Ningxi saw her, she had to greet her, so she said, Hello, senior. However, Su Yimo acted as if she didn't see her and didn't even glance at her. She continued to look at Jiang Mai. Little Yi, I heard you got a game endorsement? Ningxi just did what she had to do. Since Su Yimo was like this, she naturally didn't step forward. Jiang Mai, what's wrong? Su Yimo frowned. Why do you suddenly want to endorse a game? Jiang Mai, I just want to bring my junior sister along. Hearing this, Su Yimo's face turned serious. Little Yi, I don't know what your manager is thinking, but with your current status, if you accept this kind of endorsement and partner with this kind of person, it will affect your image too much. I hope you can reconsider. Hearing this, Jiang Mai finally couldn't take it anymore. He put on a fake smile and said, Haha, Miss Su, aren't you being too nosy? Also, next time, please call me Jiang Mai. Su Yimo couldn't take it anymore. Little Yi, I know you don't like people to control you, but I'm doing this for your own good. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Zhao Meixin hurriedly said, Yimo has the most right to speak on these matters. Our Yimo just got the main endorsement for Chanel in China, and we're about to start discussing the renewal of Lu Group's endorsement contract. Sigh, I've been too busy recently. Little Yi, I'm experienced. I think you should listen to me on this matter. I'm leaving, talk to you when I have time. With that, Su Yimo continued to ignore Ningxi. She nodded slightly to Jiang Mai and walked away in a very noble and elegant manner. As soon as the two of them left, Jiang Mai immediately exploded. Damn it! Who are you calling Little Yi? Who are you calling Little Yi? Who are you to call Little Yi? You actually dare to interfere with this daddy's business. Does she really think she's my aunt? If she hadn't saved Xiaobao's life, I would have fallen out with her long ago. Ning Xiaoxi, bite her to death. Ningxi was speechless. Please don't sound like you're letting the dogs out, okay? Jiang Mai began to complain incessantly. Ningxi, you don't know that my uncle didn't mention to Su Yimo that she saved Xiaobao at all. He just said something casually and ordered people to praise her. But in the end, she had such a high opinion of herself, thinking that my uncle was deeply in love with her and was silently helping her behind the scenes, to the point where she was almost regarding herself as Mrs. Lu. Every time she speaks to me in that tone, it really disgusts me to death. Ningxi glanced in the direction Su Yimo had left. I won't offend anyone who doesn't offend me. However, looking at Su Yimo's attitude, it's impossible for us to live in harmony. Even if you didn't say it, we would have to fight sooner or later. Jiang Mai said, Don't be a coward. Just do it. Big brother is your most solid support. I'd rather you be my first aunt than have her be my first aunt. Ningxi, thank you so much. In the nanny car, Zhao Meixin carefully took out a beautifully wrapped gift box from the back seat. Yimo, this was sent by Ning Xuelua's agent this morning. Because of what happened last time, Ning Xuelua and Ning Xi are at loggerheads. Now she suddenly shows goodwill to us. I'm afraid she wants to cooperate with us? Chapter 324. Su Yimo lifted the lid of the gift box with one finger, glanced at it, and said disdainfully, Does she deserve to work with me? She had the support and protection of such a distinguished man, so she didn't need to work with anyone. Zhao Meixi knew what she was thinking, so she swallowed and said, You can't say that. What's important isn't Ning Xuelua, but the power behind her. She has the Ning family behind her, and her boyfriend is Su Yin, so she can't be underestimated. You know, the Su family has been in the limelight in the capital recently, and there are a lot of people trying to curry favor with them. Now that she has such a good opportunity, it's not a big deal to do her a favor. Although everyone in the industry thought that Su Yimo had an ambiguous relationship with the senior management of Lu Holdings, Zhao Meixin had never seen Su Yimo contact the senior management of Lu Holdings in private. Therefore, Zhao Meixin was actually very uneasy, but she never dared to mention it in front of Su Yimo. If she did, she would definitely be scolded. Su Yimo couldn't tolerate anyone doubting her relationship with Lu Tingxiao. Su Yimo's expression wavered when she heard about the Ning family and the Su family. Zhao Meixin said, "By the way, Yimo, did you hear about what happened last night?" "What happened?" Su Yimo asked. Zhao Meixin immediately whispered into her ear, "Last night, Ning Shualua was having a party at home, and Ning Shi happened to be living above her, so Ning Shualua probably brought her men up to trample on her." But Zhao Meixin told her the whole story vividly, and then exclaimed, "What a huge walk-in closet! And all the clothes are from GE." There was something else that Zhao Meixin didn't dare to say. In Golden Era, even Su Yimo didn't get such treatment. Su Yimo frowned. "Gee? Yeah, the clothes designed by Gabriel Elvis. Don't you like them too? Didn't you want to wear this brand at the opening ceremony last time? But I didn't get it," Zhao Meixin said weakly. Back then, she had finally found one, but someone had intercepted it and bought it at a high price. Su Yimo had even scolded her, so she had a deep impression of it. Hearing this, Su Yimo, who wouldn't allow anyone to surpass her in any aspect, instantly changed her expression. She frowned and said coldly, "He's just a pawn that Golden Era used to annoy Starlight. He's only in the limelight for a while. What can he do? However, it's not a big deal to have another friend. I'll leave Ning Shualua to you." "All right, leave it to me." The Lu family's old residence. As usual, Xiaobao was lying on the windowsill in a daze. After looking out of the window for a while, the little girl took out her mobile phone and sent a message to her papa. He missed Aunt Xiaoxi, although they had just met not too long ago. In the CEO's office of Lu Group, the man picked up his phone and glanced at it with a gentle gaze. Then, he typed a few words on his phone and replied to his son, "I miss her too." Xiaobao quickly replied with another question mark. She meant to ask him how he could meet Aunt Xiaoxi. Lu Tingxiao looked out the window and pondered for a moment. Then, he lowered his head and began to reply to his son's message. A moment later, Xiaobao finished reading the message and climbed down from the chair. He then ran towards the living room. In the living room, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui were talking. When she saw Xiaobao, she immediately put away the photos and information of the socialites on the coffee table and smiled at her good grandson. Chapter 325. Xiaobao, quickly come to Grandma's side. "What's wrong? Are you hungry? What do you want to eat? Grandpa will ask the kitchen to cook for you." The two old men's voices were gentle and kind, for fear of scaring Xiaobao. Xiaobao could only live alone and couldn't be in the same space with them. Now he could live with them, which was a great happiness for them. Xiaobao shook his head, took off his shoes, climbed onto the sofa, and began to massage Grandma's shoulders. Yin Rui was flattered. "Oh, Grandma's sweetheart, are you massaging Grandma's shoulders?" Xiaobao nodded and massaged even harder. Lu Chongshan's face was filled with jealousy as he muttered, "Looks like Xiaobao likes Grandma more." Was it because he was usually too strict with her? It seemed so. Especially his attitude towards that woman was really bad. If Xiaobao saw this, would she hate him? What should he do? The more Lu Chongshan thought about it, the more worried and angry he became. He did it for Xiaobao and for the family. But he was the bad guy. Everyone blamed him, and most importantly, even Xiaobao didn't like him anymore. Lu Chongshan was in a low mood. After massaging Grandma, Xiaobao immediately moved to Grandpa's side and began to massage Grandpa's shoulders. His soft little hands really melted people's hearts. Lu Chongshan was a tough man, but his eyes almost turned red on the spot. Good, good. Xiaobao's kindness is enough. Don't tire yourself out." Lu Chongshan was silent for a while and finally couldn't bear it, so he sighed and asked, "Xiaobao, Do you have something to ask Grandpa? Xiaobao nodded honestly. Lu Chongshan asked again, do you want to see Aunt Xiaoxi? Xiaobao nodded hard and looked at Grandpa expectantly and uneasily. His little eyes softened Lu Chongshan's heart. Okay, Grandpa promises you. I'll ask someone to invite her to our house later, okay? Xiaobao's eyes immediately lit up. He happily kissed Grandpa's cheek and then ran back to his room with satisfaction. Yin Rui looked at her husband, who was smiling like a fool, speechless. Who was the one who kept saying that I had no principles and no bottom line? Now what about your principles? Where's your bottom line? Your grandson massaged your shoulders, and it's all gone? In order to trick your grandson into giving you a kiss, you agreed to everything, right? Lu Chongshan coughed lightly and regained his solemn expression. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm doing this for Xiaobao's physical and mental health. Besides, it's not a big deal to have that woman accompany Xiaobao. I'll naturally send someone to watch over her. Lu Chongshan then made a call to his butler, Xing Wu. Master, what are your orders? Go and make a call now. Ask that woman to come and accompany Xiaobao. Lu Chongshan thought for a moment, then said, just say that Xiaobao is home alone. Later, Madam and I will find an excuse to leave, so that she can be alone with Xiaobao. Master, what do you mean? Put more surveillance cameras in the house. Yes, I understand. Xing Wu accepted the order and left. Yin Rui frowned when she heard the conversation between her husband and the butler. Isn't that a little inappropriate? Lu Chongshan said carelessly. Why not? I'd like to see what's different about her. Don't you also want to know whether that woman is sincere to Xiaobao or not? Chapter 326. Yin Rui hesitated at first, but finally nodded for Xiaobao's sake. Don't let Ting Xiao know, or he'll be angry again. I think he's been seduced by that woman. Let him go on a blind date as soon as the girl is selected. I don't believe that out of so many outstanding girls, none of them can compare to that woman. After leaving the company, Ningxi went straight back to her apartment. She was lying in bed reading the entertainment news when she suddenly received a strange call. She picked it up suspiciously. Hello? A serious male voice came from the other end of the line. Hello, is this Miss Ningxi? Yes, and you are? Ningxi was puzzled. I'm Mr. Lu's butler, Xing Wu. Mr. Lu and Mrs. Lu are busy today, so young master is alone at home. Miss Ning, do you have time to visit us? Ningxi sat up like a carp. Yes, I'm free. I'll be right there. After hanging up the phone, Ningxi immediately rummaged through almost all the clothes she had, but she didn't know which one to wear. She looked even more exaggerated than when she was meeting her boyfriend. In the end, she chose a set of clothes that both she and Xiaobao liked. It was fashionable with just the right retro elements. Although the designer was not famous, Ningxi had always been his loyal fan. She usually wore clothes like this. She didn't care about the brands and only wore what she liked except for necessary occasions. When they arrived at the old house, a man in his 30s who looked like a butler led her into the main house. As soon as Ningxi entered the door, a soft little whirlwind immediately rushed over and crashed into her arms. Baby! Ningxi immediately bent down and hugged the little bun. She wanted to kiss him as usual, but considering that there were outsiders present, she held back. The little bun hung his head in disappointment when Aunt Xiaoxi didn't kiss him for a long time. Aunt Xiaoxi didn't kiss him this time. Was it because he had done something wrong? Was it because she didn't like him anymore? Was it because there were other children she liked more? Miss Ning, I'm leaving. If you need anything, please ring the bell to call me. Ningxi nodded. Okay, thank you, Butler Xing. Xing Wu bowed and left. After Xing Wu left, Ningxi soon noticed that the little boy was unhappy. She laughed and scratched the little boy's nose. Then she kissed the little boy on both cheeks and said, Baby, Annie misses you so much. The little bun's expression immediately brightened. She pursed her lips and blushed, and a flower seemed to bloom on the top of her head. Aunt Xiaoxi still likes me. Little Baozi thought for a while, and then seriously wrote a very complete sentence on the writing board for Ningxi. I also miss Aunt Xiaoxi very much. Ningxi's heart was filled with sweetness, But she saw that Xiaobao quickly wrote another sentence. Daddy too? Ningxi didn't expect that Xiaobao would write such a sentence. She couldn't help but be stunned, and her cheeks were slightly hot. Xiaobao actually wrote this sentence. This was a little illogical, wasn't it? In the past, Xiaobao would never mention anyone else when he chatted with her. Good boy. Although Ningxi was suspicious, she didn't think too much about it. She touched the little bun's head and led him to sit on the sofa. At the same time, in the surveillance room in the backyard, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui were sitting in front of the big monitor screen, staring at the monitor screen. Chapter 327. At the same time, in the surveillance room in the backyard, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui were sitting in front of the monitor, staring intently at the screen. When she saw the warm interaction between Ning Shi and Xiaobao, and the two sentences that Xiaobao had written, Yin Rui's tense expression softened. She smiled helplessly and said, "It must have been Tingxiao who taught her." Lu Chongshan harumphed and didn't say a word. He continued to stare at the monitor, not only to watch her, but most importantly, he had to know why this woman could make Xiaobao so obedient. However, Lu Chongshan was destined to be disappointed, because in reality, Ningxi and Xiaobao's interaction couldn't be any simpler. In other words, the two of them did their own things. Xiaobao was a child who knew how to be alone. He only needed Ningxi to be by his side, and that was enough. Hence, as usual, Xiaobao was playing Sudoku with relish, while Ningxi was curled up on the sofa reading the entertainment news. She stroked Xiaobao's head as if she was stroking a kitten. Occasionally, she would be too engrossed in the news and forget to pat him. Xiaobao would raise his head and stare at her, begging for a pat. Ningxi knew and quickly gave him a tiger pat. In front of the monitor, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui watched for a long time but couldn't figure out what was going on. The two of them were entertaining themselves and didn't interact much. But the warmth and intimacy that permeated between the adult and the child flowed continuously through the screen. Yin Rui sighed and said, "Although this girl didn't do anything, I feel that whenever Xiaobao is by her side, he is especially lively, just like an ordinary child." Lu Chongshan wasn't blind. He could naturally tell, but he couldn't admit it. He said in a low voice, "What's the rush? Keep watching. I don't believe that she can't find any loopholes. Xiaobao likes her so much. It must be because she is submissive to Xiaobao and pleases him. You must know that her pampering of Xiaobao is like honey coated with arsenic. She definitely can't let it go on like this. I must let Tingxiao see for himself what kind of woman he has chosen." After watching the news for a while, Ningxi put down her phone. She rested her chin on her hand and stared at Xiaobao without blinking. Compared to the phone, the buns were much better looking. Feeling Aunt Xiaoxi's gaze, little Bun looked up suspiciously and blinked. An idea flashed through Ningxi's mind. "Baby, don't play with this. Let me teach you something fun." Little Baozi nodded obediently and allowed Ningxi to pull her into the courtyard. In front of the monitor, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui stood up nervously to see what Ningxi was going to do. Lu Chongshan's face darkened. "Just you wait. The fox's tail is about to be revealed." Yin Rui nodded and stared at the monitor nervously. Ningxi led Xiaobao to an empty grassland in the courtyard and said with satisfaction, "Let's do it here." Then, Ningxi leaned over and said softly to little Bun, "Baby, you're too quiet and don't exercise much. It's not good for your health. Of course, you can't exercise too much either. It's not suitable for your small body. So, Andy will teach you a set of 5 animal frolics. Do you want to learn?" Chapter 328. Although Xiaobao did not fully understand, he nodded without hesitation. Ningxi cleared her throat and began to teach. The 5 animal frolics is divided into bear, tiger, deer, ape, and bird frolics. Each frolics has a different effect. Let's learn them one by one. First is the bear frolics. The biggest effect of this set is to regulate the spleen and stomach. In the surveillance room, Lu Chongshan was stunned when he saw this. His eyes lit up. This little girl actually knows about the 5 animal frolics? 5 animal frolics? Isn't that the set of exercises you always want to teach Xiaobao? Yen Rui asked. Lu Chongshan nodded and then said unhappily, even if that little girl really knows how to do it, it's definitely just for show. Don't lead Xiaobao astray. This set of 5 animal frolics was passed down by Hua Tuo, the miracle doctor. Of course it's excellent, but the movements must be on point for it to be effective. I wanted to teach Xiaobao before, but unfortunately, Xiaobao ignored him. How could he possibly learn from him? Yen Rui was a little worried and said nervously, why don't we get someone to interrupt her? It would be terrible if we were to be led astray by this girl pretending to understand. Lu Chongshan nodded. I'll get Xingwu over right now. Then, he picked up the communicator and pressed the call button. Hello, Xingwu, master. I'm here. What can I do for you? You go now. Lu Chongshan was halfway through his sentence when he suddenly stopped talking. His eyes fell on the monitor in surprise. Master? Master? Lu Chongshan was still staring at the monitor and only snapped out of it after a long time. It's fine now. Then, he cut off the communicator. What's wrong? Yen Rui was puzzled. Lu Chongshan coughed softly and looked a little unnatural. Let her teach. Yen Rui was stunned. Then, she asked in surprise, you mean, she's a good teacher? Lu Chongshan looked at the girl's movements on the monitor and answered vaguely, it's all right. Yen Rui glared at her husband. What do you mean by all right? It's clearly not bad, right? Otherwise, with her husband's personality, he would never let her teach Xiaobao even if there was a slight flaw. In the monitor, Ningxi separated the movements and taught Xiaobao in detail. Have you learned it? Xiaobao nodded. All right, let's do it from the beginning to the end. Xiaobao began to do the same thing. His movements were as smooth as flowing water. Because he was small, when he made those animal movements, he looked very cute. Ningxi applauded happily and praised, baby little Bao is so awesome. He learned it so quickly. Try to practice it every day from now on. Okay? Xiaobao's eyes sparkled when he was praised, and he nodded vigorously in agreement. Darling, you're so obedient. Yen Rui looked at her husband and asked, what do you think? Deep in thought for a long time, Lu Chongshan said gloomily, don't forget that she is an actress. It's very easy for her to act in front of us. Maybe she knew that we would be watching her in secret. She might have prepared all these in advance. Yen Rui nodded. Then let's continue observing and see, shall we? Time passed bit by bit, and soon it was evening. Ningxi and Xiaobao held hands as they sat on the swing and watched the setting sun in the sky. There was something that Ningxi had been thinking about for a long time. Seeing that she was about to leave, she finally could not help but say to Xiaobao, baby little Bao, Annie has something to discuss with you. Chapter 329. Lu Chongshan had been staring at the screen for the whole afternoon and felt a little dizzy. Hearing Ningxi's words, he suddenly woke up. It was finally coming. Guess what she wants to discuss with Xiaobao? Lu Chongshan asked his wife. Yen Rui frowned and thought for a while. She already knows what Xiaobao means to us and that we should listen to him. Does she want Xiaobao to put in a good word for her in front of us? Lu Chongshan sneered. More than that. I'm afraid she wants Xiaobao to quarrel with us and marry into the Lu family. Yen Rui frowned. The more she thought about it, the more she thought it was possible. That's too much. How can she take advantage of a child? Lu Chongshan's expression was solemn. Now you know what the consequences are for the Lu family if we allow a woman with a bad character to marry into the Lu family? It's not a big deal that we can't have peace at home. What's more, we will be in chaos outside. That's a big deal. Yen Rui nodded. You're right. Ting Xiao has been working so hard outside. If there's a mess at home, he will be distracted. In the yard, under the setting sun, Xiaobao raised his little head and looked at Aunt Xiaoxi doubtfully. Ningxi considered her words, looked at Xiaobao seriously and said softly, Xiaobao, I know you like Aunt Xiaoxi and Aunt Xiaoxi likes you very much. Last time, you told me that if you love someone, you should give that person freedom. Now, Aunt Xiaoxi also wants to tell you that no one can be your everything in life. In this world, there were too many beautiful things waiting to be discovered, waiting to be experienced, waiting to be loved. I like you very much, very much, very much. So I also hope that you can also grow up freely and happily. Ningxi finally came to the point. So, Aunt Xiaoxi wants you to promise me one thing. In front of the monitor, under the tense and cold gaze of the two elders, Ningxi looked at Xiaobao and said, Xiaobao, promise me that you will go to school, okay? Lu Chongshan, Yin Rui. Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui exchanged glances and did not speak for a long time. After a long time, the two of them finally recovered from this completely unexpected development and stared at the monitor even more nervously. What would little treasure's answer be? For the first time, Xiaobao didn't immediately nod in response to Ningxi's request. At this moment, Ningxi was also very nervous. She wasn't sure if Xiaobao would agree to her request. 10 seconds passed, 30 seconds passed, 1 minute passed. Ningxi didn't dare to rush him and could only wait silently. The more she waited, the more anxious she became. What she didn't know was that there were two people who were even more anxious than she was. In the end, Ningxi couldn't bear it any longer. She put her palms together and asked pitifully, Darling little Bao, okay? Xiao Bao sighed helplessly like a little adult and then began to write on the writing board. Ningxi and the two elders in the surveillance room watched nervously. A moment later, Xiao Bao raised the writing board. Xiao Bao doesn't want to go to school. Ningxi's eyes dimmed and she lowered her head in disappointment. Sure enough, it didn't work. But soon, Xiao Bao began to write again and then raised the writing board for the second time. But Aunt Xiaoxi likes it, so Xiao Bao agrees. Ningxi stared at the line of words and finally came to herself after a long time. Xiao Bao, you agree. You really agree. And she was so touched by his promise. No wonder he was the son of the devil. Chapter 330. At this moment, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui, who were in front of the monitor, were completely stunned. They didn't know how to describe their current feelings, Xiaobao had agreed. Xiaobao had agreed to go to school. This meant that Xiaobao had taken the most important step towards becoming a normal child. Yin Rui was indescribably excited. Chongshan, did you see that? Xiaobao has agreed to go to school. That's great. That's great. Yeah. Our baby has agreed to go to school. Lu Chongshan let out a long sigh. Our whole family has been trying to persuade him for so long. We've used all kinds of methods, soft and hard, but it was still useless against a few words from her. Yin Rui sighed. I used to think that Jingli was exaggerating, but it seems that Xiaobao is really obedient. Lu Chongshan was even more worried after his initial joy. It seems that this woman is not simple, and she's very calm. I underestimated her too much before. Have you noticed that everything she's doing now, on the surface, seems to be for our Xiaobao's good? Yin Rui chimed in. I didn't understand it before, but now I understand why Jingli and Xiaobao like her so much, and why Tingxiao is so infatuated with her. Lu Chongshan shook his head. Tingxiao is still too young. Suddenly, a nervous voice came from the other end of the communicator. Master, young master is back. Lu Chongshan frowned. So what if he's back? Why are you panicking? Just as Lu Chongshan was about to switch to the surveillance camera to see where Lu Tingxiao was, the screen in front of him turned black the next second. Everything disappeared in front of him. That brat. Lu Chongshan was furious. I told you I wouldn't be able to hide it from him. In the backyard, Ningxi was so happy that she was about to explode after Xiaobao had agreed to go to school. Unfortunately, at this moment, there was no one to share this joyous feeling with. However, at this moment, she saw a familiar figure walking towards her step by step from the corner of her eye, Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi's first reaction was to run over, but because she was in such a hurry, she almost knocked into the man. She only managed to stabilize herself when the man held her shoulders. She said excitedly, Lu Tingxiao, Xiaobao has agreed to go to school. Yes. Looking at the girl's flushed face, Lu Tingxiao's eyes were filled with tenderness. He gently stroked the girl's hair. Thank you for your hard work. The man's touch brought Ningxi back to her senses. She hurriedly stood up straight and took a step back. She scratched her head awkwardly and said, I didn't do anything. I just tried to persuade him. Fuck. What was going on? Why did she suddenly throw herself at Lu Tingxiao uncontrollably like a bird returning to the forest? Was she the one with such a young girl? Well, since you're back, I'll take my leave first. Just as he was about to run away as usual, he suddenly thought of something. His expression changed, and he bent over to discuss with Little Bun. Little Bao, can I speak to your father alone? Xiao Bao looked at Aunt Xiaoxi and then at Papa. He was unhappy that they were going to whisper without him, but in the end, he nodded and agreed. Ningxi cuddled with Little Bun for quite a while. After saying goodbye, she immediately turned to Lu Tingxiao and said seriously, President Lu, I have something very important to tell you. Chapter 331. What's the matter? Lu Tingxiao's eyes were like a warm tide, soothing Ningxi's uneasiness at this moment. Ningxi calmed down a little. She thought about her words and said, You should be careful these days. You'd better take a few bodyguards with you when you go out. It's not too much to take a dozen. Ever since she suddenly received a call outside the villa that day, she had been very uneasy. She knew that with Lu Tingxiao's ability, that guy couldn't possibly touch him, but she was still worried. She almost wished that she could stay by his side and protect him 24/7. Lu Tingxiao narrowed his eyes and a cold gleam flashed across his eyes. But he soon calmed down and took a step towards Ningxi unhurriedly. Ningxi subconsciously stepped back until her back was against the wall covered with vines. Lu Tingxiao put one hand on the wall behind her and suddenly asked, Is this called Stonehenge? Ningxi blinked. Yes, and it was very standard. But why did the topic suddenly change in such a strange direction? I learned it after you said you liked it last time. Lu Tingxiao said. Ningxi laughed. Haha, she really wanted to tell the devil that she didn't need to learn it. And when did she say she liked it? She said girls couldn't stand it. Okay? Well, she couldn't stand it now. Ningxi was a little worried that Lu Tingxiao would be displeased. After all, she seemed to be questioning his ability and worried that she would cause him trouble. However, Lu Tingxiao kept his flirting posture, leaned over and asked her in a low voice, Ningxi, are you worried about me? Ningxi was dumbfounded. Ahem, yes. After all, you are my boss. I see, but I'm still very happy. Lu Tingxiao smiled with satisfaction and then said, Then I'll text you every day to tell you I'm safe, okay? Of course. Ningxi felt something was wrong after saying that, but she couldn't figure out what it was. Lu Tingxiao looked satisfied, straightened up and left the invasive range. I wanted to ask you to stay for dinner, but I guess you won't feel comfortable here, so I won't keep you. It's okay. I'm leaving. Bye. It was not until she got home that Ningxi realized what was wrong. As soon as she got home, Lu Tingxiao sent her a text. Are you home? I'm eating with Xiaobao. Everything is normal. Don't worry. Holy shit. She had only told him to be careful. Why did it turn into a pattern of a husband reporting to his wife every day? She really wanted to kneel before the Devil King. In the future, she would never dare to say that she knew how to pick up girls. He no longer dared to say that he wanted to teach him how to pick up girls. In front of the great Demon King, she was simply a piece of trash. However, this was not the end. Soon after, Lu Tingxiao sent another message. Bring Xiaobao to school in a few days. This is Xiaobao's first time going to school. I hope you can come. Ningxi, no matter what, he couldn't type out the word of rejection in his hand. Okay. After typing this word, Ningxi smashed her head on the pillow. It's over. She had clearly dug a hole for herself, however. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that something was amiss. Coincidentally, she was free today, and the old mansion had invited her to accompany Xiaobao. Coincidentally, she had persuaded Xiaobao to go to school, and right after that, the devil had asked her to accompany Xiaobao to school. She guessed that she would be free when the time came. Everything had happened so naturally that it was unbelievably smooth. Was it really just a coincidence? Chapter 332. After resting for 2 days, Ningxi was full of energy and returned to the crew to continue working. She looked at the schedule for the next few days. Her main scenes had been completed, and most of them were reshoots of the scenes with Jia Qingqing. She was already familiar with this part of the scenes, so she felt no pressure. When she arrived at the crew, it was not her turn yet. Xiao Tao came up to her as soon as she saw her. "Sister Shi, you're here. I was going to text you to tell you not to come so early." Ningxi raised her eyebrows and joked. "What's wrong? The director is so nice, but he's giving me a holiday again?" "No. Look over there." Xiao Tao whispered to her to look at Guan Xiaoqi and Fang Ya, who were filming in front of them. It's Guan Xiaoqi and Fang Ya. They've done countless takes in one scene, and they're even scarier than Jia Qingqing. Guan Xiaoqi. Ningxi held her chin and thought for a moment. "That's right. It's that new singer that our company is promoting. His singing is terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. He's rich, and the money he's throwing at him is like flowing water." I heard that she insisted on acting at the beginning, but the company tested her basic skills and found that her acting skills were scarier than her singing, so they tried everything to persuade her to become a singer. At least singers can tune their voices in the later stages. In the end, so much money was thrown at her, but she only became a singer for a few months. She said she wanted to quit, and now she's back to acting again. After Xiao Tao finished gossiping, she reminded Ningxi nervously, "Although we're in the same company, we should stay away from this kind of person." Ningxi nodded and pondered. In fact, Guan Xiaoqi did help her in the apartment last time, although he didn't do it on purpose. However, she wouldn't act rashly before she got to know a person thoroughly. After knowing the situation, Ningxi didn't leave early. She sat down on the chair. She had a lot of scenes with Guan Xiaoqi, so it was necessary for her to know his level in advance. Not far away, Guan Xiaoqi and Fang Ye were still filming. In the film, Guan Xiaoqi played the role of Meng Chang's nemesis, concubine Xian, while Fang Ye played the role of another concubine of the fatuous monarch, concubine Shu. The two of them often fought with each other and had a lot of scenes together. Ningxi looked at them from afar. From the looks of it, Guan Xiaoqi was the one who was in trouble, and Guo Qixing seemed to be on the verge of breaking down. "Guan Xiaoqi, you are a favored concubine, a beloved concubine. She had to be enchanting. You have to be charming. Don't move like a wooden block." "And your lines. We don't use dubbing for this movie. It's all recorded on the spot. How can you say your lines without any ups and downs like you're reading a book? Expression. Where's your expression?" Xiao Tao handed a bag of melon seeds to Ningxi. "Sister Shi, you see it now. I didn't exaggerate, right? His acting skills were terrible. Sai, your cooperation with Mr. Jiang was so good and smooth. Originally, everyone thought that they could finish filming ahead of time, but who knew that Guan Xiaoqi would pop up halfway through? He's the king of NG." Ningxi did not speak. Objectively speaking, it was not a matter of good or bad acting skills, because Guan Xiaoqi had no acting skills at all. She was a blank piece of paper. Usually, in this kind of situation, the person acting with her was very important. To make matters worse, Fang Ye, who was acting with her, had a grudge against her. Moreover, Fang Ye's acting skills were average. It would be strange if Guan Xiaoqi could perform well with her. Chapter 333. Finally, Guo Qixing couldn't take it anymore. He shouted, "Let's take a break for 10 minutes. No, 20 minutes. Guan Xiaoqi, you need to adjust yourself." Ningxi pondered. 20 minutes, to Guan Xiaoqi, this was of no use. If this went on, Guan Xiaoqi would only NG until he died. Guo Qixing must have known this. Ningxi looked in Guo Qixing's direction. Sure enough, She saw him sneaking to the side to make a call, probably to ask for help. Xiao Tao shook her head as she munched on melon seeds. Director Guo probably wants our company to send someone else, but that's impossible. Guan Xiaoqi's background is too deep. He can't be replaced. Sure enough, in less than 5 minutes, Guo Qixing came out of the corner with a dark face. His expression showed that he had failed to ask for help. Guo Qixing walked straight to Ning Shi and said apologetically, Ning Shi, they're delayed. You might have to wait a little longer. Ning Shi smiled and said casually, It's okay, Director. You guys go ahead. Don't worry about me. While Ning Shi was talking to the director, Guan Xiaoqi and Fangya had already started arguing. Fangya was gloating to the person next to her. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. Someone told me at first that her acting skills were top-notch, but it turns out that she's only this good? Guan Xiaoqi kept a straight face and didn't say anything. Fangya was even more pleased that she didn't say anything. So what if you're rich? With your acting skills, even a mountain of gold and silver from your family can't do it. What a waste. Guan Xiaoqi didn't have much patience to begin with. When he heard this, he slammed the table and stood up. I'm willing to waste it. I'm happy. It's none of your business. Do you think your family has money to waste like this? You're just saying the grapes are sour. You're so jealous that your eyes are red. Look at your shabby face. You. Fangya was so angry that she almost vomited blood. But at the same time, Guan Xiaoqi's words not only angered Fangya, but also the other actors in the crew who were from ordinary families. What a bunch of haters, but it wasn't surprising. She had been spoiled since she was a child. How could she stand being bullied like this? It was impossible for her to consider other people's feelings. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more serious, Guo Qixing hurriedly rushed over to mediate, but he was badly battered. Xiao Tao was also indignant. Damn, Guan Xiaoqi's words are too infuriating. You can't blame everyone for hating her. Ning Shi didn't say anything. She patted Xiao Tao's shoulder and said, I'm going to the bathroom. Oh, okay. By the way, Sister Shi, do you want to eat anything? I'll buy it for you. I reckon we'll have to wait for quite a while. Ning Shi waved her hand. No, thank you. Just buy something you like. Ning Shi came out of the bathroom and was walking back when she suddenly caught a glimpse of a person squatting under a tree root not far away. Guan Xiaoqi? Why is she squatting there? Ning Shi stood there suspiciously for a while. Guan Xiaoqi held the script in her hand and kept muttering to herself. She looked very serious, not at all like the arrogant and conceited person she was in front of everyone. Ning Shi stood there and watched for a long time. Guan Xiaoqi didn't notice anyone nearby, so he practiced again and again. Chapter 334. 20 minutes passed quickly. Ning Shi returned to the rest area. The shooting of Guan Xiaoqi and Fangya continued, and the result was, without a doubt, appalling. Ning Shi calmly walked up to the director, who was about to hit the camera with his head. Director, I have something to discuss with you. Guo Qixing turned his head tiredly. Oh, Ning Shi, what's the matter? Go ahead. Ning Shi thought for a while and then asked, Well, Director, I have something urgent to deal with later. I really can't wait any longer. Can you adjust the scene between me and Guan Xiaoqi to the beginning? Well, Guo Qixing looked embarrassed. Hey, you've seen Guan Xiaoqi's acting skills. Your scene with her is even more difficult. It's okay, Director. Just try it. Maybe she's just stuck in this plot. She'll be fine after changing the plot. Ning Shi comforted him. How is that possible? Guo Qixing shook his head with a wry smile. Forget it. It's the same no matter what she does. Just do as you say. If it doesn't work this time, you don't have to waste your time with her. Go to your own thing. Ning Shi hurriedly thanked him. Thank you, Director. Guo Qixing coughed lightly and interrupted Guan Xiaoqi. Guan Xiaoqi, wait a minute. Fangya, go and have a rest. Ning Shi has something urgent to deal with later. Let's shoot her scene in advance. Fangya's eyes lit up. Okay, I have no problem with that. Guan Xiaoqi froze when he heard what the director said. He clenched his fists tightly by his sides. Of course, Fangya had no problem with that. When she returned to the rest area, she said excitedly to the people next to her, "Ha ha ha, Guan Xiaoqi is doomed. Do you know what scene she and Ning Shi are going to shoot next?" Could it be the scene where Jia Qingqing took more than 30 takes? Yes, that's the one. Oh my god, Guan Xiaoqi is definitely going to die. At this moment, Guan Xiaoqi's two assistants, 11 and 12, were anxious. "Miss, let me discuss it with the director and Ning Shi. This scene is too difficult. You can't do it." Yes, when Jia Qingqing acted with Ning Shi, she did not stop from the beginning to the end. "Shut up. Who said I can't do it?" Guan Xiaoqi clenched his fists and scolded them fiercely. "Don't tell anyone. This was it. Am I not even comparable to Jia Qingqing?" The two little assistants looked at each other and were speechless. They thought that if you were half as good as Jia Qingqing, they would be laughing even in their dreams. "Hey, Ningxi is in the same company. Why is she behaving like this? Wasn't it just a little longer? You know how difficult this scene is. So what if we're in the same company? We don't have much of a relationship. Our miss has almost offended everyone in the company, okay? In a place like the entertainment industry, everyone sweeps the snow in front of their own door. Who cares about the frost on other people's roof?" A moment later, the filming for the next scene was ready. Ning Shi and Guan Xiaoqi took their places. Ning Shi sat on the luxurious wooden chair, while Guan Xiaoqi fell to the ground in a mess. Looking at the way Ning Shi looked down at him, Guan Xiaoqi felt a little humiliated. This time, Guo Qixing didn't bother to give them any advice. He waved his hand and said, "Let's start." Chapter 335. Setting: The Cold Palace. Characters: Meng Chang'e, concubine Xian. In the dilapidated palace, Ning Shi sat on the large chair with contempt in her eyes while Guan Xiaoqi looked angry and humiliated. Guo Qixing raised his eyebrows. What? Guan Xiaoqi's expression was not bad. Then Ning Shi looked at her as if she were a dead person. "Concubine Xian, do you know why I hate you so much? Why do I have to kill you?" After Ning Shi finished her lines, Guo Qixing pinched between his eyebrows. He was ready for Guan Xiaoqi's first NG. The cameraman was also absent-mindedly fiddling with the equipment. The other staff and artists didn't like Guan Xiaoqi's arrogance, so they were all waiting to see a good show. "Bitch, you are jealous of me. Jealous of the Emperor's love for me. You're jealous that I'm favored." Guan Xiaoqi angrily recited his lines, his eyes even slightly red. Damn it. Fangya and all these people were just jealous of her. They were just jealous of her. Guan Xiaoqi's voice trailed off, and everyone present was stunned. What? She had said the lines accurately, and her expression and tone were very good. She must be lucky. After saying the lines, even Guan Xiaoqi herself was stunned. But before she could be distracted, Ningxi immediately said the next line, "Oh, I am jealous? Jealous of your favor from that old man?" Guan Xiaoqi followed Ningxi's words and naturally acted out the next line. She looked incredulous. "Concubine, are you crazy? I will tell the Emperor. I will tell the Emperor that you insulted." Ningxi immediately stopped Guan Xiaoqi with a look and then said gloomily, "Concubine Liang, do you know who I am? Do you still remember the name? Meng Chang'e?" Seeing this, everyone held their breath and stared. The atmosphere at the scene was extremely tense. The crowd lowered their voices and whispered in disbelief. "Guan Xiaoqi is so lucky. Why hasn't she taken a NG yet?" Fangya crossed her arms and sneered. "Haha, she is about to take a NG. Just wait and see." That's right. Jia Qingqing took this line 33 times in a row. Under Ningxi's gloomy eyes, Guan Xiaoqi looked dull and frightened. "You are Meng Chang'e? How could you be Meng Chang'e?" Meng Chang'e was clearly dead. This was impossible. Impossible. Ningxi suddenly approached. "Zhao Wanru, if you don't die, how would I dare to die? Even if I die, I will crawl out of hell. I'll drag you down with me. Don't come any closer. Don't come any closer." Guan Xiaoqi screamed in fear. Zhang Rue, director, director, cut, crack. In the end, it was the assistant director who reminded him that the director came back to his senses and hurriedly shouted, "Cut! This scene. He actually passed it. He passed it with just one line." The moment Guo Qixing shouted "Ka," no one could react. After a long while, there was a heated discussion on the scene. Oh my God! Did the sun rise from the west? Guan Xiaoqi passed? And it was done in one go. This is too shocking. What's wrong with him? Fang Ye's face was livid. She was the first to stand up and protest. How is this possible? Director, how could you let her pass it? She didn't act well at all. Her expression and movements were too exaggerated. Chapter 336. Guo Qixing glanced at Fang Ye impatiently. Xiaoqi is not a professional like you. It's good enough that he performed so well. Then he looked at Fang Ye discontentedly. Pay more attention when you're acting with Xiaoxi. She can only do that when you're into the role, understand? Director, it's her fault. Fang Ye was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Was it her fault that Guan Xiaoqi's acting was bad? At this time, the others also began to change their attitude. Director, you're right. I thought it was all Guan Xiaoqi's fault, but now I think Fang Ye is also a problem. Of course. Otherwise, how could Guan Xiaoqi pass the scene as soon as he acted with Ning Shi? Although Guan Xiaoqi's acting was bad, Fang Ye's acting was also bad. The pot calling the kettle black. After the scene, Guan Xiaoqi almost floated back to the rest area. His two assistants, one fanning and the other bringing water, greeted him happily. Miss, you were amazing. Yes, you passed in one take. You acted so well. Guan Xiaoqi raised his chin and looked proud. I told you that my acting was good. I just couldn't act well because I was sick of Fang Ye's face. Do you believe me now? Yes, I believe you. Miss, you're the best. It's all Fang Ye's fault. Ning Shi glanced at Guan Xiaoqi and then walked over to Guo Qixing. Director, what do you think of this scene? Is there a problem? No problem. No problem. Very good. Guo Qixing smiled. Ning Shi paused and then said casually, Director, I think Guan Xiaoqi is in a good state now. Would it be better to shoot the next scene? Well, you're right. I'll ask them to start the next scene right now. By the way, if you have something urgent to do, go ahead. Okay. Thank you, Director. Ning Shi nodded and left. Xiao Tao followed Ning Shi suspiciously. Sister Shi, what's wrong with Guan Xiaoqi? He passed in one take. He must be just lucky, right? Ning Shi said, Probably. I knew it. Sister Shi, is there something urgent? Do you need my help? No need. You can get off work now. Okay, thank you, Sister Shi. She thought she would have to work overtime today, but she didn't expect that she could get off work early in the end. Xiao Tao immediately ran away happily. Ning Shi had removed her makeup and changed her clothes. She was walking in the corridor leading to the hotel. At this moment, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and hooked onto her shoulder. Tut, Ning Xiaoxi, not bad. You saved the damsel in distress? Ning Shi threw Jiang Mai's hand away and patted the non-existent dust on her shoulder. What? Do you have a problem with that? Jiang Mai didn't care and put his paw over again. I thought you didn't like to meddle in other people's business. Why are you helping that annoying Guan Xiaoqi this time? Ning Shi rubbed her chin. Guan Xiaoqi helped me once, so I'm just returning the favor. I don't like owing favors. Moreover, let's not talk about this lady's character and conduct for now, but I can tell that she really likes to act. She always had a good impression of people who really liked and loved acting. Jiang Mai was speechless. You really have tender feelings for the fairer sex. Why do you care? Ning Shi rolled her eyes at him. You don't have a scene today, do you? What are you doing here? Chapter 337. Jiang Mai said excitedly, "Anyway, you don't have much work to do. Let's go to the bar tonight." Ningxi raised a finger and shook it. "I'm sorry. Although I'm going to the bar tonight to relax, I'm going alone. I won't take you." Jiang Mai was furious. "Shit, why won't you take me?" Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. "You think we didn't have enough fun last time, right? Wasn't that an accident? Besides, you accepted the endorsement for nothing because of that." Jiang Mai said matter-of-factly, "Who can guarantee that I'll be so lucky every time? Superstar Jiang, please do me a favor and let me go. I don't want to trouble Sister Gigi anymore." An hour later, in Carlos Bar. Carlos Bar had a special feature. Almost all the people at the bottom of society, especially men, came here. In the outside world, the most common saying about Carlos Bar was, "Poor people and dogs are not allowed in." What attracted the first and second generations of the rich were naturally the women and socialites with superior looks, figures, and temperament. In addition to power and wealth, beauty was also the most effective pass here. Ningxi finally got rid of the sad Jiang Mai. When she arrived at the bar, it was almost full, so she found a corner and sat down. For Ningxi, the biggest advantage of this bar was that she didn't need to disguise herself. Basically, no one here would know a little-known star like her. She could completely relax. As soon as Ningxi sat down, several middle-aged men who seemed to be looking for prey immediately turned their eyes to Ningxi. There was a trace of deep meaning in their eyes. "Her looks and temperament are outstanding, but her clothes don't suit my taste." "Well, she doesn't look like a socialite." "If she's not a socialite, then she is? Let's wait and see. There are many girls in the bar tonight. Don't worry." These middle-aged men sat on the high-end leather sofas and made lazy and comfortable postures. Their voices were neither loud nor soft, so the people around them could hear them clearly. As soon as he finished speaking, the few youths beside him suddenly stood up together. The leading young man was dressed in an expensive shirt and trousers. He stared at Ningxi with a pair of narrow eyes and said, "Ho ho, this girl's temperament and appearance are both top grade. She doesn't suit your taste. Then we'll go for her." "As you wish, young Masterly." The middle-aged men on the sofa smiled and didn't care. Most of them were aiming for the real socialites. No matter how pretty a woman was, they were disdainful. Thus, the few young masters around young Master Li started to whistle frivolously in Ningxi's direction. "Hey, a beauty. Do you want to come and sit with us?" There was light music in the bar, which was not harsh and noisy. Ningxi naturally heard the voices of the childs. Ningxi's cold eyes casually swept over those childs and did not give any response. Ningxi had encountered this kind of thing a few times and was already used to it. She only came to Carlos Bar to relax, so she chose to ignore it. This bar was quite high class, so normally, no one would make things too ugly. Chapter 338. "Chick, Mr. Li asked you to come and sit here. Didn't you hear him?" Seeing that Ningxi didn't respond at all, the young men in front of Mr. Li all looked a little angry and their tone became a little harsh. To their surprise, the woman still didn't move even when they invited her again. She just drank her drink, as if she didn't hear them at all. "You stinky." Before the young man could finish his sentence, Mr. Li stretched out his hand, patted him on the shoulder, and said with a smile, "You can't get a girl like this. The process of conquering is a kind of enjoyment. Do you understand?" Hearing Mr. Li's words, the young man smiled and said, "You're right. I was too impatient. We can't deal with such a girl. Mr. Li, you have to do it yourself. We'll watch and learn from the side. We'll never embarrass Mr. Li in the future." Mr. Li nodded with satisfaction and said in a senior's tone, "You can't rush to get a girl like her. Let's take it slowly." After that, he looked at Ningxi meaningfully and then returned to the VIP seat with the young men. Seeing that the young men didn't continue to talk, Ningxi didn't pay attention to them anymore. She drank her drink and listened to soothing music leisurely. This kind of extreme relaxation inadvertently revealed laziness, which added a bit of a seductive flavor to it. While waiting for the order, Ningxi logged in her Weibo. She found that her Weibo hadn't been updated for a long time. Since the filming was about to be finished, it was good to stir up some popularity. So she thought for a while and wrote a post. Listening to the wind and rain in the night, the iron horse and the glacier come to my dream, counting down to the completion of the filming. Soon, the number of comments and likes began to soar, and many crew members also reposted it. Jiang Mai reposted it and added a sentence. 10 years of life and death. I don't think about it, but I will never forget it. It was just in line with the tragic and touching feelings between Meng Chang'e and Sun Huanqing. As soon as Jiang Mai reposted it, the fans on the internet immediately went crazy and began to discuss the super popular couple Meng Chang'e and Sun Huanqing. At the same time, in the private room on the top floor of Carlos' bar, Lu Tingxiao was drinking by himself. At this time, the phone on the table vibrated with a ding sound. He clicked on it and saw the latest news popping up on Weibo. It was the Weibo post Ningxi had just posted. He set up a special attention setting for Ningxi and installed a small program in his phone. As long as Ningxi updated, it would automatically vibrate and ring to alert him. Lu Jingli was speechless when he saw this from the corner of his eyes. Fuck, brother, that's enough. In order to see the other party's movements in time, he had specially made a small program. I really can't understand the romance of you science guys. Lu Tingxiao ignored his brother and kept looking at Ningxi's Weibo. It's just a short sentence. Don't tell me you can see anything from it. Lu Jingli mumbled softly. Then, his brother's slender fingers pressed a few times. Then he wrote a text message and sent it to Ningxi. Lu Jingli unceremoniously leaned over to take a peek. The next second, when he saw the content clearly, he covered his eyes and fell back into his seat, rolling on the ground. Holy shit. My dog eyes. My titanium dog eyes. I shouldn't have peeked. He was simply looking for a beating. He thought that since his brother was in a lovelorn state, he wouldn't be abused. He never thought that he would be abused even more. Chapter 339. Soon, a new message popped up on Ningxi's cell phone. It was from Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi took a sip of the cocktail that the waiter had just served. She thought that Lu Tingxiao was just making a routine report about his safety, so she clicked on it. The message read, listening to the wind and rain in the dark. You are the iron horse and the glacier. Buffed. Ningxi spat out the wine in her mouth. Her face was burning. Oh my God. The devil was so cruel that she couldn't look at him directly. Ever since the devil said, one day, you'll find that cabbage tastes better than carrots, she had been thinking about it for a long time after she got home, but she couldn't figure out what the devil's next plan was. At this moment, she finally figured it out. The devil was obviously going to use a big trick on her, the honey trap. Ningxi was in the midst of being teased when she suddenly saw something flying straight in her direction. Her eyes sharpened, and she immediately blocked it with the tray on the table. The next second, with a bang, the wine bottle that almost hit her head fell to the ground, making an ear-piercing sound. Before Ningxi could go to the other party, they came to her first. A socialite in a tight red sequin dress walked up to her, surrounded by a group of people. She looked down at her and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why, but the wine bottle suddenly flew out. It didn't hit you, did it?" Ningxi glanced at them coldly and ignored them. She didn't like to cause trouble, but she wasn't afraid of it. It was fine if it didn't hit her, but if it did hurt her, she didn't mind teaching them a lesson. Anyway, no one knew her in this place, so she could do whatever she wanted. It's okay. Ningxi stood up. She didn't want to have any contact with these people, so she was about to leave and find a quiet seat. Seeing this, the socialite secretly winked at the girls in front of her. The girls around the socialite immediately understood and stepped forward to block Ningxi's way. Don't. That wine bottle almost hit you. We feel bad. We must make it up to you. That's right. We were careless before. If we just let it go like this, We would feel really guilty. The girls echoed each other as if they really felt guilty in their hearts, but the naked disdain, contempt, and contempt in their eyes were not concealed at all. At this moment, the music in the bar became even softer. Many eyes fell on them, most of them staring at Ning Shi as if waiting to see her make a fool of herself. That girl is a genuine socialite. Although her looks are ordinary, her family background is not ordinary. How did that chick offend her? Ha ha ha, do you even need to ask? That chick must have hooked up with her man. I know this socialite. She's the eldest daughter of the Wang family, Wang Ruolin. She loves to get jealous. Hook up? It can't be. I saw that chick didn't leave her seat. This is Carlos Bar. You only need to look at someone a few times to hook up with them. Have you ever heard of flirting? Don't be so vulgar. Some of the well-dressed men and women in the surroundings were discussing among themselves. Things like this happened almost every night in Carlos Bar. Others had seen it many times, so they naturally wouldn't make a fuss. They just watched the fun. Ning Shi glanced at the girls and said expressionlessly, "You don't have to compensate me. Your wine bottle didn't hit me." Chapter 340. How can we do that? Even if we agree, Sister Lon won't agree, right? One of the girls looked at the socialite next to her. As she spoke, the socialite walked forward and stared at Ning Shi with a sneer. It's not easy for you to come to Carlos Bar in the middle of the night. You must have spent quite a lot of money to buy this outfit. I can't let you return empty-handed. This is your reward, no compensation. After saying that, the socialite opened her bag and took out half a bundle of dazzling banknotes. She threw them at Ning Shi's feet. Is 5,000 enough? Sister Lon, you're really too generous. Just now, even if it hit her directly, 5,000 yuan would have been enough. Yes, our Sister Lon is so generous. It's enough for her to sell her body once. The girls sneered and sneered. In the bar, this scene was really shocking. More and more people gathered around. Young Master Li smiled and continued to drink unhurriedly. It seemed that he was waiting for the best time to make a move. At this time, Ning Shi frowned. This woman was not here to apologize. She was obviously here to cause trouble. What? Is this not enough? You sell your body. If you were fucked by those old men, this would be the most you would get, right? The socialite stared at Ning Shi with disgust. Before Ning Shi could say anything, another stack of notes fell at her feet with a bang. This is 10,000. Plus the 5,000 just now. Is 15,000 enough? The socialite sneered. Oh, Sister Lon, this is too much. I think 3,000 is enough. A woman like her will definitely try to extort more from someone like you. Sister Lon is so kind. Let's add 10,000 and make it 25,000. 25,000? I like that number. The socialite smiled coldly and threw another stack of banknotes at Ning Shi. Ning Shi raised her eyebrows and looked at the woman in front of her. She looked at her as if she was looking at a fool. This kind of person was rich and idle. She wanted to find a sense of existence. It was a pity that she didn't have any sense of existence in front of her. She was too stupid. She didn't even have the interest to abuse her because there was no pleasure in it. Beauty, please accept this money. Although $25,000 isn't much, it's better than working at night. At this time, a muscular, blonde, and blue-eyed mixed-race man next to the socialite squatted down and picked up the money. He was about to hand it to Ning Shi and gave her an ambiguous look. Thank you, but I don't think I need this compensation. Ning Shi's voice was cold. At this moment, the socialite seemed to have been provoked by something. She suddenly cursed. I only compensated you out of kindness because I saw that you were pitiful, but you actually didn't know what was good for you and seduced my Cheng Yun. Just now, she ran over because her male companion kept looking at this bitch's direction. In the end, this bitch actually dared to seduce Cheng Yun in front of her. Did she think she was dead? Although Ning Shi didn't want to deal with this kind of people, These people had been pestering her several times. She lost her patience no matter how good she was. She sneered and glanced at the mixed blood fresh meat as if she was looking at a piece of cheap pork. I'm seducing him? Nonsense. If it wasn't you who hooked up with him, could it be that our Chungyan hooked up with you? You're still looking. Haven't you seen a handsome man before? Is there a need to be so thirsty? TSK, you must have slept with too many old men. You've never seen such a handsome man, right? Chapter 341. The socialite stroked her finely manicured nails and looked at Ning Shi's beautiful little face. Her face was gloomy. Now, kneel down and apologize to me. Promise that you won't think about other men anymore. Then, crawl out of this bar, and I'll call it a day. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving tonight. You offended our Miss Lee and still want to leave? It's not that easy. As soon as she finished speaking, a group of thugs from the socialite surrounded her. Ningxi glanced at those thugs and quietly cracked her knuckles. Haha, Sister Lon, what's wrong with this lady? Why are you so angry? At this time, Childly, who had been drinking at the VIP seat, suddenly stepped over. He looked at the socialite and said with a smile, Hey, Childly. Seeing him, the socialite's face softened. Don't you dislike this kind of poor and cheap prostitute? Why do you suddenly speak for her today? Sister Lon, I like this lady very much. Please don't embarrass her for my sake. Childly behaved like a gentleman. Childly likes her? The socialite was stunned and then came to her senses. Well, since Childly likes her, there's nothing else to say. With Childly's ability, you can pay at least 50,000 for one night. I really don't know why she is so lucky. Several women beside her snickered when they heard this. Childly was famous for being a pervert in bed. He had played many women to death. If Childly took a fancy to her, she would suffer. But as long as he had money, it didn't matter to such a woman, right? Miss, 50,000 for one night. Come with me. Otherwise, if you offend Sister Lon, it will be difficult for you to leave Carlos Bar. Childly looked determined. He walked towards Ning Shi like a hero saving the beauty and wanted to hold Ning Shi's hand. The next second, with a bang, Ning Shi moved slightly and directly hit away young Master Li's outstretched hand. You. Being rejected on the spot, Child Li's face suddenly became gloomy. Young Master Li didn't need to say anything. His supporters and his family's thugs had quietly surrounded them. Thus, the current situation was that Ning Shi was directly facing off against two groups of people, and the atmosphere was on the verge of exploding. So lively tonight? Amidst the clamorous and chaotic air, a chilly voice that was like an icicle suddenly resounded out, and it was like a strand of Sanskrit that refreshed the heart and refreshed the mind. In an instant, everyone looked in the direction behind Ning Shi, dumbfounded. Ning Shi also froze. What was this voice? Demon King? As soon as Lu Tingxiao appeared, the socialites at the front were stunned. This man, who had suddenly appeared, could no longer be described with just the word handsome. His every movement was filled with nobility, and it seemed that just a cold gaze from him was enough to make people fall for him, unable to extricate themselves. Oh my God! Who was this man? So handsome. What's important is not just being handsome. It was an aura. It was too imposing, okay? That's awesome. I thought that Cheng Yun was already manly enough. In front of this man, he's simply not enough. At this moment, Miss Wang in the middle was staring blankly at Lu Tingxiao, her cheeks flushed red. The man in front of her was like a god, exactly the same as the ideal man in her dreams. With just a glance at him, the little fresh meat companions she was so proud of all turned into trash. Chapter 342. Seeing that Ningxi was also staring at the man who had suddenly appeared, the socialite sneered. Do you think you have the right to look at a man like this? Ningxi was speechless. She had been brain dead for the entire night. Mr. Liu, what can I do for you? Then, the manager of the bar rushed over and approached the man attentively. This Carlos bar was operated by the Liu Group. The manager had only met this mysterious boss once. Because his impression of him was too deep, he was able to recognize him at a glance. The manager knew that this boss didn't like others to know his identity, so he only addressed him as Mr. Liu. Put the bill for all the customers tonight on me, Lu Tingxiao said calmly. Okay, no problem. The manager replied immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone in the bar cheered. In fact, just by looking at the manager's nervous attitude, one could tell that this person was definitely a rich and powerful person. Looking at the way he attacked, it was even more certain. The socialite had been eyeing Lu Tingxiao greedily since the beginning. At this moment, when she saw how generous the man was, she could no longer hold it in. Her heart pounded violently as she walked up to him. So it's Mr. Liu. I'm Wang Ruolin from Wang's group. May I know where Mr. Liu is working? May I have the honor of having a private chat with Mr. Liu and a few drinks? With such a handsome appearance, an enchanting temperament, and a terrifying amount of wealth, the bill of all the guests tonight would add up to tens of millions. But the man in front of her didn't care at all. Which part of him wasn't deeply enchanting? Moreover, his surname was Liu. Could he be related to the legendary Liu family in the capital? Lu Tingxiao glanced at the socialite and said indifferently, You have to ask someone about this. As long as she agrees, I have no objections. Ask who? The socialite asked immediately. Lu Tingxiao's cold gaze landed on Ningxi. Her. Ningxi. Huh. What? Asked this bitch? The socialite was still in a daze. A cold glint flashed across Lu Tingxiao's eyes. Sorry, miss. Please take back your inappropriate words and apologize. She is my most beloved woman. After saying that, as if this sentence was not shocking enough, he added, It's just a pity that I haven't been able to woo her yet. Your beloved woman? The socialite screamed in disbelief. How is this possible? Such a man should be compatible with someone of her status. How could he chase after such a dirty woman? You actually like this kind of woman? Do you know how dirty she is? Do you know how many people she has slept with? The socialite couldn't accept this reality. Liu, seeing Lu Tingxiao arguing for her, Ningxi was about to speak when Lu Tingxiao gave her a reassuring look and said softly, It's okay. Leave it to me. Seeing how gentle Lu Tingxiao was towards Ningxi, the socialite's face turned red. Mr. Liu, don't be fooled by this kind of person. She's just playing hard to get. She just wants more money. Then he threw all the money and cards in the bag at Ningxi's feet. Get away from this man. How much money do you want? Name your price. The women next to the socialite chimed in. Don't people like you just want money? Name your price. Our sister Lan can afford it. Lu Tingxiao watched the socialite throw money like crazy and then said unhurriedly, Also, apart from being my sweetheart, she is also my superior, my boss. Tonight, she is the one who is treating everyone. So, you're drinking my boss's wine now, but you're insulting her. If it's possible, please spit out the wine you just drank. Then, ignoring the socialite and the other's disbelief, Lu Tingxiao looked at young Master Li, who was already dumbfounded. And of course, you. Chapter 343. In an instant, everyone present was like a weathered statue, and all of them stood there in a daze. The man in front of them had an extraordinary aura. Just his identity alone was scary enough. But now, this man actually said that the woman they had mistaken for a prostitute was his superior, his boss? In that case, how terrifying and terrifying was this woman's identity? What kind of big shot did they offend? Crazy, this woman. Is his superior? Boss? Did I hear wrongly? How could it be? It must be a lie. But why would he lie to us? There's no need for that. And look at this man surnamed Lu. His attitude towards that woman was really respectful. Could it be that that woman is really his boss? Oh my God. Sister Hong actually kept throwing money at her just now. She's simply asking to be humiliated. In reality, this Carlos bar was full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Anyone wearing coarse hemp clothing could be a big shot. So, the more they thought about it, the more likely it was in an instant. Everyone was so scared that their faces were drained of blood. They looked at Ning Shi as if they had seen a ghost. Then aren't we finished? I was still saying it just now. It's over. It's over. Me too. This time, we're really going to die. Of all people to offend, they had to offend this kind of person. Everyone's faces were full of horror, but Ning Shi's expression was because her heart was too complicated at this moment. There were too many expressions she wanted to express, so she was expressionless instead. However, this expressionless face looked so unfathomable that it made those people tremble in fear. Vomit. Still not vomiting. If they didn't vomit, would they be able to leave this bar with their arms and legs intact after offending such a person? In the end, no one knew who was the first to vomit. With a wah sound, he vomited. This vomiting sound was like a signal, and the sound of vomiting could be heard one after another. Although Lu Tingxiao only called out Wang Ruolin and that young masterly, there were quite a few people who insulted Ning Shi just now. Those people's statuses were lower than Wang Ruolin and young masterly. At this moment, they were the first to vomit. Wasn't it just vomiting? It was better than being unlucky. Looking at the people around her vomiting, Miss Wang's face turned ashen. She slowly raised her head and glanced at Lu Tingxiao, as if hoping that the man would take pity on her. However, as soon as she raised her head, she saw the other party's extremely frightening gaze. Due to extreme fear, she couldn't hold it in and vomited. Seeing that everyone had vomited, young Masterly, who had been holding on for the sake of his pride, couldn't hold on anymore. He pressed his hand against his throat and forced himself to vomit. He didn't expect that he would almost die here. He just wanted to be a hero and save a damsel in distress. In an instant, the entire bar was filled with the foul smell of alcohol. It was too horrible to look at. Lu Tingxiao took off his coat expressionlessly and covered Ning Shi with it to prevent her from being stained. Then he walked out the door with her in his arms without looking back. Meanwhile, on the second floor of the bar, Lu Jingli held a large bag of melon seeds in his arms, his face maintaining a look of amazement. Damn it, when a crazy wife-protecting demon goes berserk, it's really scary. However, even if you go berserk, you should at least pay attention. This is your own bar after all. How are you going to do business if you mess it up like this? Forget it. This guy only has his wife in his eyes. How can he care about his own business? Chapter 344. Outside the bar was a road lined with 2 rows of ginkgo trees. It was a cold night, and a man and a woman were walking slowly along the quiet road. Are you okay? Lu Tingxiao asked with concern. Ning Shi shook her head. She hadn't completely calmed down yet. Why did you suddenly appear there? I was having a meeting upstairs and I saw you before I left. Lu Tingxiao explained. Oh. Ning Shi didn't know what to say. Thank you for helping me out. Lu Tingxiao looked indifferent. You're welcome. I know you could have solved it yourself even if I hadn't shown up. I just didn't want to dirty your hands. Ning Shi's heart pounded as the man's low, husky voice drifted into her ears. She coughed and changed the subject. By the way, why did you tell them I was your boss? Well, you are my boss. It's a mess. What kind of person is your boss to you? Lu Tingxiao didn't answer her, but suddenly asked her. What kind of person is my boss? Ning Shi thought for a moment and then answered. He probably gives me money every month, and I make money for him. I'm obedient to him? Yes. Lu Tingxiao nodded. Ning Shi was dumbfounded. What did he mean by yes? The next second, she suddenly realized what he meant. According to her understanding just now, the definition of a boss was the same as that of a wife. Sigh. This was the longest road she had ever walked in her life. It was the devil's trick. Well, it's late. I'll go back first. Thank you for tonight. Ningxi said goodbye. Lu Tingxiao happened to be walking to his car. He opened the door and said, "Let me drive you." Ningxi scratched her head. "That's not necessary. I can take a taxi back myself." Lu Tingxiao said, "You're too beautiful tonight. It's not safe." Ningxi, she decided to shut up from now on. Would it be safer if she didn't get flirted with? In the end, Lu Tingxiao dropped her off at the bottom of her apartment. She was finally home. Ningxi breathed a sigh of relief and bowed. "Thank you, boss. I'm going up." Ningxi. Lu Tingxiao suddenly called her. "Ningxi, huh? Can I give you a hug?" Lu Tingxiao asked softly, like a timid elf who was afraid to disturb the night. Ningxi. Ningxi was still shocked. The stars were bright, and the breeze was gentle. Under the moonlight, Lu Tingxiao's gaze was so gentle that it could drown a person. It's over. The enemy's honey trap was too fierce, and the city gate was about to fall. She clearly knew that he was using a honey trap. She clearly knew that he was planning to bewitch her step by step, but she still couldn't resist. Who could stand being flirted with by the person they liked? For her to be able to hold it in until now, shouldn't she be given an award for being the most unruffled person? What to do, what to do, what to do? Agree or disagree? Just as the ambiguous atmosphere became more and more intense, Ningxi's cell phone suddenly rang. This voice was especially abrupt in the quiet night air. Ningxi was still in a trance. She picked it up absent-mindedly and took a look. However, in the next second, when she saw it clearly, she was so scared that her soul seemed to have flown out. A line of words was quietly lying on the phone screen. "Dear, do you dare to agree to try under?" Holy shit. Chapter 345. Boss Lu, it's late now. The moon is so beautiful tonight. Ha ha ha, go back early. I'm going back to sleep. Ha ha ha, bye 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 bye. Ningxi ran as fast as she could and disappeared in a second. She didn't even know what she had said to Lu Tingxiao just now. Lu Tingxiao stayed where he was. He first looked at the back of the girl who was desperately running away. Then, he raised his head and looked at a certain direction in the darkness. Even when she rushed into the room and slammed the door, Ningxi's heart still couldn't calm down. It was beating almost crazily. After taking several deep breaths, she took out her cell phone and looked at it again. "Dear, do you dare to try and..." That's the sentence. She didn't read it wrong. And this was someone's favorite way to threaten people. It was a symbolic, hateful smile. What the hell was going on? Was that guy nearby just now? Ningxi's fingers trembled slightly. She paced back and forth in the room for dozens of times. Finally, she stopped thinking and dialed the number of the other party. The person on the other end of the phone seemed to be deliberately teasing her. He didn't answer it until the phone was about to automatically hang up. His voice was casual and lazy. "Hello? Where are you now?" Ningxi immediately asked. "Las Vegas. Are you kidding me?" "Oh, if I were really nearby, do you think you could still call me now?" The man's voice was a little gloomy. "You sent someone to spy on me? Tut, don't think so lowly of me. I don't care how you know it. Let me ask you, what do you want?" Ningxi took a deep breath to calm down and asked, gnashing her teeth, "It's a secret." "Fuck. Dear, be good. I hope there won't be a next time. Do you understand?" "Hello, hello, hello." The sound of hanging up came from the other end of the phone. Ningxi punched the bed angrily. After that night, Ningxi had been living in fear. She was afraid that the guy would suddenly appear out of nowhere and tormented her so much that she almost had a nervous breakdown. The only fortunate thing was that they managed to make it to the end of filming without any mishaps. Finally, it was the last scene. Ningxi had been tense since last night, and had been brewing her emotions. This scene was the scene before Ming Changa's death, and it was also the final scene of the film. It was even more important than the scene of Sun Huanqing's death. Even Ningxi wasn't confident that she could control it completely. For the first time in the history of the film, Ningxi was nervous. Ningxi had been immersed in the scene, so she didn't notice that as soon as she appeared on the set, everyone looked at her strangely, until Fangya proudly strolled in front of her to make her presence known. Ningxi, you're finally here. There's a letter for you. He seems to be your pursuer. Ningxi was recalling Ming Changa's life and thinking about her emotions before she died. She was in a state of high tension, so although she was here and saw Fangya in front of her, she was immersed in another world and didn't hear what Fangya said at all. Fangya was holding a piece of pink letter paper in her hand. There were two easily overlooked letters YS engraved in the corner of the letter paper. Fangya waved the letter and then said with a considerate look, "Oh, Ningxi, are you reading the script? Since you're so busy, let me read it to you." Chapter 346. Some of the people around them who had already read the contents of the letter couldn't help but burst out laughing. Fangya read it aloud. My dearest Shi, I love you, like a mouse loves rice, like a kitten loves fish, like a puppy loves bones." Fangya's tone was too exaggerated and funny. More and more people gathered around, and finally, they all burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. This love letter is so old-fashioned. Did that person graduate from primary school? Maybe from kindergarten? There are still people writing love letters these days? I'm speechless. Who the hell is it? Needless to ask, it must be one of Ningxi's poor suitors. Be serious. I haven't finished reading it yet. Fangya glared at them, then continued, "At this moment, I send you my most sincere blessings and love. Tomorrow night's wrapping banquet, I will definitely give you the most noble, most tempting, most irresistible gift that matches your beauty, wisdom, and nobility." Fangya couldn't help it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I'm dying of laughter. Someone help me. This man is not only uncultured, but also retarded, right? How arrogant. And the most noble, most tempting, most irresistible gift. Is he going to give us an excavator for the wrapping banquet? It really matches Ningxi's noble identity. The crowd roared with laughter. A tractor or a brick is also possible. Maybe it's a cart full of cornbread? Don't make wild guesses. A cart full of cornbread is also very expensive. Okay? TSK. Pretending to be rich, that's enough. This kind of person is the most disgusting. How could Ningxi have such a disgusting suitor? Hee. Isn't there a saying that what kind of person you are will attract what kind of person you are? The noise grew louder and louder, and Ningxi, who was surrounded in the middle, didn't speak. At this moment, she suddenly spat out two words with an extremely cold expression, "Quiet." That voice was like an ice blade straight across the most fatal artery in one's neck. Fangya instantly fell silent, and the others also curled their lips and lowered their voices. Then, Ningxi stood up with the script, pushed through the crowd expressionlessly, and walked straight towards Guiqisheng. In fact, Ningxi had only heard a lot of noise just now. She had no idea what Fangya and the others were talking about or reading. She didn't even notice the love letter. She just wanted to avoid being disturbed and focus on her role. As soon as Ningxi left, the crowd's discussion grew louder. "SK, what are you trying to act tough for?" Fangya threw away the letter in her hand in disgust, thinking that Ningxi had suddenly left because she was too embarrassed. So she said sarcastically, "She also knows how to be embarrassed. Weren't you very proud of yourself just now? What #1 beauty in the entertainment circle with countless suitors?" On the first day of the game, there were flowers and diamonds. What was the situation now? The level of these pursuers is getting lower and lower. What flowers and diamonds? It's obviously the style of an uncultured nouveau riche. How can he compare to a noble young master like Su Yin? By the way, did Ningxi deliberately find her pursuers to keep up appearances last time? It's possible. After all, there was a real tall, handsome, and rich Su Yin at that time. Ning Shui was in the limelight so much, she probably didn't want to be suppressed, right? Hearing this, Fang Ye's eyes flashed. She lowered her voice and said to everyone mysteriously, "Speaking of Su Yin, I have a big, shocking secret." Chapter 347. An earth-shattering secret? What secret? Tell us. That's right. Don't keep us guessing. Everyone loved gossip, let alone big gossip. In an instant, almost everyone gathered around Fangya. Fangya waited for them to calm down before she was satisfied. She said word by word, "Su Yin will propose to Shui Luo at the end of production party tomorrow." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone had a stupefied expression on their faces, because this gossip was too shocking. After a short silence, everyone began to crazily ask for details. "Oh my God, is it true? A proposal on the spot? So romantic? Fangya, how did you know about this?" Fangya looked proud. "I'm Shui Luo's best friend. Of course Su Yin told me in advance so that I could cooperate with him. By the way, keep it a secret. Don't let Shui Luo know, or there will be no surprise." Got it, got it. We won't tell anyone." Everyone nodded. Fangya continued to speak arrogantly. "Tomorrow's end of production party, the hotel, the banquet, everything, the Su family will pay for it. I think they're going to have a big surprise." Wow, I'm so envious of Ning Shui Luo. My God, this is definitely the most sensational event of the year. I'm so happy just thinking about it. He's such an excellent man, and he's so attentive to me. Just then, someone in the crowd interrupted with a strange expression. "That Ningxi has been competing with Ning Shui Luo. Will she die of anger this time?" Fangya immediately sneered with a face full of mockery. "Hee hee, can't you see? Ningxi must have heard the news and knew that Su Yin was going to propose. Didn't you see how bad her face was today?" Everyone recalled for a while, and then they all showed a look of realization. No wonder. Her face is very bad today. She must be in a bad mood. Just then, someone suddenly burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, I suddenly thought of something. Will Ningxi's strange suitor really make a surprise for tomorrow's end of production party? Won't Ningxi be more embarrassed if she bumps into Su Yin? Ha 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 ha, that love letter is so funny. How can there be such a strange person? I really don't know what he will give her." Fangya curled her lips contemptuously and said, "She asked for it. Who told her to be so desperate and hook up with just about anyone? It's no wonder that she has always been so jealous of Shui Luo." After everyone was done gossiping, Fang Ye's eyes flashed with a hint of success. Then, she secretly sent a message to Changli. "Sister Chang, everything is done. The rumor has been released. This time, God is also helping us. Ningxi has a very strange suitor. When the time comes, we have to prepare a surprise for her." At the same time, in Ledoyen, a 3-star Michelin restaurant in F country. In the kitchen, Executive Chef Apasa suddenly received a call from Las Vegas. After answering the call, he immediately stopped what he was doing, took off his apron, and handed it to the sous chef next to him. With a serious expression, he said, "I'm going to leave for Country C right now to be an assistant chef for a banquet. I'll leave the rest to you. Don't you have to book your schedule at least half a year in advance, no matter how distinguished the other party is? How come this time? Don't you always have to book your itinerary at least half a year in advance, no matter how distinguished the other party is? How come this time?" Chapter 348. Also, did I hear it wrong? You just said you're going to be an assistant chef. Which chef is qualified to have you be his assistant chef? "It's my honor to be his assistant," they said respectfully. The sous chefs all had an incredulous look on their faces when they heard that. They could basically guess which master it was that could make a willingly serve as his assistant chef. However, whose banquet was it that could make that master come out in person? Because they were so curious, one of the sous chefs couldn't help asking, "May I know whose banquet you are attending this time?" I pondered. I didn't ask much. I only know that it's a lady named Ning Shi. Ning Shi? Who is that? Everyone looked at each other. One of them suddenly remembered something and asked, "By the way, your disciple, Mr. William, seems to be from sea as well. I wonder if he knows this noble lady? Will he be attending her banquet?" William frowned and shook his head. "Even I can only be an assistant chef. How can he be qualified?" Oh. Everyone looked at him with reverence. Ningxi had no idea what was happening. She was engrossed in discussing the next scene with Guo Qixing and the scriptwriter Yiling Long. After a long preparation, Ningxi was finally confident. She took a deep breath and said to Guo Qixing, "Director, I'm ready." "Good." Guo Qixing patted her on the shoulder. "Let's start now." "Okay." Guo Qixing immediately informed all the departments to get ready. Then he shouted through the loudspeaker, 3, 2, 1, action. As soon as the shooting began, everyone quieted down. Finally, it was the last scene, the ending of the world. The treacherous courtier was dead, concubine Xian was dead, and the incapable emperor was dead. Meng Chang'e was finally avenged. Next, she would take revenge on all the people in the world who had betrayed the heroic souls of the Meng family. However, at the last moment, the blood of a general flowed in her blood for generations, and she couldn't do it. In the end, she chose to jump off the cliff and help the hero. During this scene, Ningxi had been wondering how Meng Chang'e should feel when he jumped off the cliff. At that time, should Meng Chang'e be indignant, unwilling, or desperate? In order to study this, Ningxi almost went crazy. But now, she had finally portrayed this scene perfectly. Meng Chang'e, who was played by Ningxi, was wearing a fiery red wedding dress and holding Sun Huanqing's memorial tablet in her arms. There was no grief or unwillingness on her face, nor was there any despair or reluctance. On her face, there was the shyness of a young girl, as if she had been moved by Sun Huanqing for the first time. She closed her eyes and jumped down with a satisfied smile. In the end, Ningxi chose to go back to nature. At the very last moment, Meng Chang'e returned to being a carefree girl. Ningxi shot the scene of them jumping off the cliff very beautifully. She didn't deliberately make them cry, but almost everyone on the scene cried. They were full of loss and their hearts were empty, as if they were missing something important. The original ending was that Meng Chang'e died at the hands of the female lead and the male lead. After this was dealt with, it seemed like the difference between suicide and murder, but in fact, the whole situation had changed. At this point, the last scene ended. Under the Heavens had wrapped up filming. Chapter 349. Chapter content beginning. Finished. We're finally done. Everyone at the scene cheered, and some of them were so excited that they couldn't stop crying. Ningxi was also very emotional. Her first film had finally come to an end. When she returned to the lounge, Ningxi didn't even have the strength to change her clothes. She collapsed on the dressing table like a puddle of mud. At this moment, Xiao Tao hurriedly pushed open the door and ran in. "Sister Shi, you're finally done." Ningxi waved her hand weakly. "What's the matter, dear? If you have something to say, can you tell me later? My brain is overdrawn now, and I can't think." Xiao Tao was very anxious. "No, Sister Shi. You must think. Do you know what the crew is saying about you now?" "Huh. What happened?" She was only filming a scene. "What happened?" Xiao Tao was so anxious that she stomped her feet. "Fangya has already read that love letter in front of you. Why are you still in a daze?" Fangya seemed to be mumbling something in front of me just now. What do you think it was? A love letter? Ningxi was shocked. She was completely immersed in the plot just now. She only knew that the group of people had been arguing in front of her for a long time, but she didn't know what had happened. Xiao Tao was defeated by her. She stuffed a crumpled pink letter into her hands. "Look at it yourself." Ningxi forced herself to stay awake. She scratched her head and took the letter. She muttered to herself, "Ah, my dearest she, I love you, like a mouse loves rice, like a kitten loves fish, like a puppy loves bones." Pft, cough, cough, cough. Ningxi really couldn't read it anymore. She almost choked to death on her own saliva. What the fuck? Who would have thought that in his lifetime, he would actually be able to see that fellow's demonic love letter? Chinese isn't good, so stop showing off, okay? It was simply a ghastly sight that was too horrible to look at, blinding to the eyes, sinful also. What the hell was the most noble, the most tempting, the most irresistible gift that matches your beauty, wisdom, and nobility? Forget about the most noble, most tempting, and most irresistible gift. What the hell does that bastard want to do? The more Xiao Tao thought about it, the more anxious she became. Sister Shi, you don't know that everyone is waiting to see you make a fool of yourself. It was said that Su Yin had prepared a big surprise for Ning Shuelua at the wrap-up party tomorrow night. It was very likely to be a proposal. This unknown pursuer also said that he wanted to give you a big surprise. Compared to this, aren't you embarrassed to death? Sis Shi, please don't let him appear at the party. There will definitely be reporters at the scene, or else it'll be really embarrassing. Hee. Ningxi smiled bitterly and sighed. You think that's what I want? But what use was it if she didn't want to? Ningxi held the letter, her face full of despair. It seemed that she couldn't avoid this tribulation after all. She could only comfort herself that it was better for that fellow to torment her than to torment Lu Tingxiao. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the banquet. Ningxi had used up too much energy in the last scene yesterday. She still couldn't recover, so she looked listless. Usually, she could get into character quickly and get out of character quickly. However, if it was the situation yesterday, she would be completely immersed in character without any reservations, and it would inevitably take some time to get out of character. Simply put, at this moment, half of Ningxi's soul was still Mengchanga. Chapter 350. Xiao Tao thought that Lin Jiji had suffered a setback and was unable to recover from it. She paced around anxiously, but there was nothing she could do. She could only follow Lin Jiji's instructions and act according to the situation. Ning Shuelua was destined to be the main focus today, so Lin Jiji's only requirement for Ning Shi today was steady. Thus, Ning Shi put on decent makeup and a champagne-colored Chanel autumn/winter haute couture evening gown and went to the party. The venue of the end-of-production party was the only 6-star hotel in the capital. Ningxi arrived a little early and saw busy staff decorating the scene everywhere. There were all kinds of red roses and balloons of love. Unless you were blind, you wouldn't know that they were preparing to propose. In addition, the hotel was full of all kinds of gifts, flower baskets, and so on. Some were sent by partners, and some were sent by fans. It was so full that there was almost no place to stand. Ningxi glanced at it and saw a flower basket marked Ningxi's Global Fan Club in the corner. Her eyes suddenly became warm. She also had a fan club. Although the gifts received by Ning Shuelua and Zhao Xizhou were not worth mentioning, she was still very happy. However, Xiao Tao on the side inevitably felt a little bad. Why did she receive so few gifts? It was too shabby. Later, when the reporters saw it, they didn't know what to say. Alas, when she was with Lung Manyun, there were always mountains of gifts for the end-of-production party. Now she might also lose face with them. Even people like Ning Shuelua could step on them. Seeing that her sisters were getting better and better, only she fell from the peak of being envied by others to the bottom of the valley. It was really sad to think about it. At this time, Fangya and others also came behind her, exclaiming one after another, "Wow, the scene is so beautiful. It's so dreamy. How much money will it cost? It's sky high just to book the whole hotel. The hotel is going to make a lot of money. You don't understand this. The popular first-line goddess and the most expensive young master in the capital made a romantic commitment. Such sensational news, the hotel can also use this to promote itself. They can't wait for it." After the exclamation, They all covered their mouths and snickered when they saw Ningxi standing in front of the small flower basket given by the fan. What is this from Ningxi's fan? Just a broken flower basket? Why is she standing there? Don't tell me he's preparing a surprise for that guy in silk pants? You want to count on that weird diaper guy? Don't tell me he went crazy because of Shueluo. Fangya looked at Ningxi's direction proudly and finally felt proud. She repeated what she had said that night. Alas, there is no harm without comparison. Xiaotao couldn't take it anymore as she listened to the harsh mockery. She was so angry that she almost cried. These people are too much. How can you do this? Ningxi sighed, touched Xiaotao's head and said softly, Xiaotao, be a good girl. We are only together for a while now. I won't let you suffer with me all the time. One day, we will conquer this empire for you. Xiaotao was so amused that she burst into laughter. She blushed and said, Sister Shi, you're so annoying. Are you kidding me again? Seeing the little girl laugh, Ningxi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Actually, at this moment, she did not feel good in her heart. She did not care because such a small matter was really nothing to her. However, what she could not bear the most was to let the people around her suffer grievances with her and be implicated by her. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.